everybody. It is Sunday, August 19th, I believe, 2018, and this is hopefully the final installment of how to plan a do-it-yourself hunt in North Dakota. We're going to get to the fun stuff. We're going to talk about the actual act of hunting and the equipment to bring out, which is why I decided to do the show from my shop this morning, where I got all my decoys, all my minions, as I like to say. But previous episodes, we talked about, how to buy a license, what to look for when you're looking for a place to stay. Excuse me. What to expect when you get out there, some of the things to keep in mind as far as the drive. But now we're going to talk about the fun stuff. We're going to talk about the actual hunt. And forgive me if I'm kind of jumping around. We have no script this morning. We're just going to wing it. So let's begin. So you may ask yourself, okay, going out there, what am I going to have to look forward to as far as species to hunt? It's pretty diverse, at least more diverse than what I'm used to in the state of Wisconsin. Usually that month of October and even early November, we're hunting primarily mallards, Canada geese. Early enough, you're hunting a lot of blue wings, blue-winged teal, green-winged teal, ringbills, a few gadwalls sprinkled in there, and of course plenty of wood ducks until they leave. But when you go out to North Dakota, which is smack dab in the middle of the Central Flyway and a major migration path, but also has plenty of local birds out there, residents. There's a lot of different birds. Not only are you going to bump into mallards and blue-winged teal, but you're going to have resident redheads, gadwalls, pintails that are going to migrate through, but also widgeons, snow geese at the right time of the year, white fronts are going to be coming through, swans. There's just a real diverse group of birds, again, depending on weather and the time of the year. So, with that being said, you're probably going to want to match your decoys to what you're going to have coming through out there or what you're targeting. We'll talk about that in a moment. So, as we all know, there are two ways to hunt ducks and geese and swans. You can either hunt them over water or you can hunt them over fields. Let's talk about water first. Before I begin, I've always noticed in some of these online forums like the Refuge and and Lake Link, there's always this underlying negativity or disdain towards people who come from out of state and hunt over water. And it's not to say that people from North Dakota are bad or they hate people or anything like that, or that people that come from out of state are not welcome. That's not it at all. What really brings up that bad feeling is that people hunt roosts. All right, so you say, okay, well, hunt roosts, what's that all about? Well, let's talk about roosts first. So, in a duck schedule, this is how it basically works. And geese too as well, and swans. Bird wakes up in the morning on the roost. They drink, they get all antsy, they fly to go to feed in the morning. As they're flying to their feed, they'll stop at a body of water, whether it be a small creek, a large lake, a pothole, a smaller area on a bigger lake. But that's called a transition slough. And again, it may not just be a slough, but it's a transition spot. They'll stop at this transition spot to get a drink of water, rest their wings, maybe grab a little snack, okay? And then when they're done there, they will fly onto their feed, get all filled up, and then they're going to return to the roost. On the way to the roost, they'll stop at the transition slough again, get a drink, rest their wings, maybe a snack, and then fly back to the roost, and they will stay there. And then when they feel like feeding again, they will leave the roost, stop at the transition area, go to the feed, turn around, come back, stop at the transition. You see where I'm going with this, right? And then back to the roost, and they stay there. Okay? So where the problem comes in is people who come in and hunt roosts. What happens is these roosts are safe areas for the birds to be. As long as there's open water and they feel safe there and it's not iced up, they will stay there. Okay? And they will provide hunting opportunities for everybody in the area. But as soon as they're disturbed, aka somebody goes in there and shoots it up, they leave. They leave the area pretty much, okay? Or that roost gets moved. And it ruins your hunting, whether it be the rest of the week or everyone else who's hunting in the area. That's where that bad vibe comes from. So, the moral of the story is don't hunt roosts, okay? Well, you may say to yourself, how can I tell if a spot's a roost or not? It's a very good question, but it's easily answered. So, if you are driving around in the middle of the day, all right, and there's a body of water full of ducks and geese and swans or whatever, they're in the middle of the day, it's a pretty good chance there's that's a roost. Hang out for a little bit. If they don't leave after a little while, that's a roost. One of the best ways to find out is if you're driving around at the end of the day and it's starting to get dark and you're coming back and you see a bunch of birds piling into a spot at dark, that's a roost, okay? If you are going to a spot in the morning and you kick a bunch of birds off a body of water, that's a roost, all right? Hunting roosts is bad. Hunting feeds are okay. Hunting transition sloughs are okay. My first year hunting in North Dakota, I was in the middle of the day. We were driving around scouting, saw a few ducks here, a few geese there, a couple spots. We went over the hill, driving around on a road that went through private property, and there was a lake on this private property just loaded with hundreds of birds. I'm not kidding. It was the biggest concentration of birds I've ever seen. It was crazy. We drove by, they all jumped up, they turned around, they came back. That was a roost. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right, so we know about roosts. So we're gonna hunt water. What should you bring out there? So when I hunt out there, what I try to do is I don't really go with too much more than a dozen duck decoys. Okay, maybe a little bit more because I'm a decoy guy. I like decoys. But usually what happens is I'll go out there and half of my water spread is going to be puddlers, and I'll throw some divers in there, and then I'll throw 4 floating geese, and then I'll throw my swan decoys in here, and I'll talk about those in a moment. As far as species, predominantly mallards for my puddlers, but I'll throw some widgeons or some pintails or gadwalls in there just to kind of spice it up a little bit because you do have those species that are out there. This year I went all to Avian X. I got my mallards. I picked up some gadwalls. I'll probably throw a couple pintails in there before the season starts as well. For my diver spread here, I've got some herders burlapped canvasbacks and some mallards that I converted into canvasbacks, and I'll probably go out and probably get some maybe a half a dozen floating bluebill decoys, but that's kind of how I roll. And then swans, Tangle Free makes swan decoys. I got a pair through Cabela's. They sell them in pairs for like $60 to $70. And what I like about them is they're highly visible. They have great confidence decoys, but also swans that are out there will come right into them. Little side note, if you do get an opportunity and you draw a swan permit, one of the best swan and or canvasback rigs is some swans and some canvasbacks together. So that's that. As far as hunting, the types of water out there or water hunts, bring along a marsh stool and a layout blind. Marsh stool, again, I'm not going to endorse any products, but this is pretty good here. Cabela's Northern Flight marsh seat. You can adjust the bottom. It's got a strap. You can carry it in, drive it down to the bottom of the lake, and you sit right on the cattails because some of these marshes have cattails quite a ways out. So to shoot over cattails or have a good vantage point of where the bird's at, it's pretty tough. If you don't want to spend the money, you can always get some lumber, kind of sharpen the end, and then nail a resting plate on top, whether it be another 2x4 or bar stool or whatever. Depends on what you carry out there. Also, some of these potholes might have prairie grass around it. Some of the sheet water might have, stubble around it. Layout blind will be perfect. Another thing that I like bringing out there with me is an otter sled. Now, there may be a jet sled, but it's basically one of those plastic sleds that you would use for ice fishing. The nice thing about the otter sled is it will float, okay? And you can put, depending on the size, my sled, I can probably put a bag of a dozen decoys in the back of that, drag it out there, drag it through the water. I bring a kayak out there because I don't have a dog, and I can chase down birds over water and it helps me get to spots, but I can pull that right behind my kayak. It's also a good idea to bring a nice blind bag along. I bought this from Cabela's a couple of years ago. I keep all my shells, snacks, binoculars, anything really that I need in there for the day. Get yourself a good sturdy bag. I got this Northern Flight one here. Again, I'm not endorsing anything. I don't have a sponsor, but this Northern Flight bag that I bought 2 years is hands down the best decoy bag I have ever purchased. I hunt, if I've got a 90-day season, I have a job, but I hunt quite a bit. A 90-day season, I may hunt 70 to 60 days, and I load this baby up, and it's just taken a beating, and it hasn't snapped, it hasn't broken. It's by far the best decoy bag I've ever had. But I can take this bag, throw it in the back of the otter sled, I can carry it across prairie, not have a problem with it. So Of course, you're also going to want to bring a life jacket with you going across some of these bodies of water. Waders are critical. A lot of these bodies of water that are lakes out there, they're either hard bottom or they've got this thick, sticky bottom that causes problems for people walking. So a walking stick might be a good idea. But that's the general gist. Another thing you might want to bring is a big game cart. I've got one, and my dad made one, where if you're walking from one spot to another, putting decoy bags and stuff on these carts to move them across the prairie to your spot is also a good idea. So that's water hunting generally. All right, let's talk about hunting over land. There's a lot of opportunities for hunting land out there because the landscape, of course, depending on where you hunt out there in North Dakota, central North Dakota, whether it be north or south central, get the majority of the action. But there's a lot of agriculture out there, a lot of prairies, and there's also some lakes and whatnot out there. But a lot of guys go out there to hunt geese and mallards over these dry fields and prepare accordingly. Now, a lot of guys go out there with big trailers full of 5-6 dozen decoys, and that's great if we have the opportunity to pull a trailer out into a field and set things up. But we don't always have that opportunity for whatever reason, whether the farmer says no driving out there or we can't locate the farmer, but the land is accessible. So that being said, one of the best ways to alleviate numbers, I guess, is to go with silhouette windsock decoys. Myself, and again, I'm not endorsing, but I'm just going to tell you what works for me, is I go with silhouette decoys and White Rocks windsock decoys. And what I've got is I've got mallards and I've got geese, all right, Canada geese. I like White Rocks decoys, number one, because all the bodies have a photographic image on it and it's got a rod through the back, okay? So even if there isn't any wind, that puppy's going to stand up straight. A little bit of wind moves it around. They're very durable. What also I like is that while having to put them together on your own might be kind of a pain in the ass, what I like is that for these Century heads by White Rock, which they're flocked also, by the way, is if I want to, or my Centuries, I can turn them to the side a little bit and then connect them because there's little screws on the bottom. So just give it a little more natural look. Where the mallards are concerned, again, it's a photographic image on the bottom. The drakes are flocked. The hens are not, and I don't know why they didn't flock the heads on the hens. I wish they would. But just the same, again, it's a photographic image. All right, I like to take the heads, move them around. You can kind of move them down like this if you'd like. The hens are all feeders. The drakes are all Centuries. But again, be creative. You can move those heads around. As far as snow goose decoys, when you're going out to hunt snow geese, if you're an experienced snow goose hunter, you know that numbers are king, all right? And I found this out last year. But again, the windsock and the silhouette decoys go a long way because you can carry a ton of them out in the fields. And you can have them set up relatively quick and they store nice. This white bag here, that's a White Rock bag. I can easily, I think right now I've got 3 dozen decoys in there. I could probably stack another 2 to 3 dozen in this bag of all silhouettes and or windsock decoys. But this is a tangle-free silo sock. The thing about these is they're very affordable. They get the job done. They've got a couple different versions out there. The thing that I like about the silo sock is that you don't necessarily have to go buy juvies or adults, blues, whatever. Bottom line, you can go out and you can buy a bunch of adults or their economy ones, which are not painted at all. And you can go ahead and get some Krylon paint out, and like I did with this one, this was an adult, okay, snow that I picked up. But what I did is I put some Krylon spray paint on it and darkened it up to make it look like a juvenile or a blue or whatever you might want to paint it up as. As a matter of fact, you can buy economy socks or silo sock that are just, like I said, blank. You can paint them as you need. So, again, snow geese, you need a lot of numbers, okay? Going with just a dozen or 2 dozen doesn't cut it. I had my first real snow goose hunt last year in North Dakota. If you saw some of my video from last season, I came across a field just loaded with snow geese, and I was pretty fired up to hunt the next morning. And came up to that same field, same spot, got all ready, and I had 2 hours straight of geese flying over my fields, and they did not land in that field the next day, which, again, confirms what everybody said about hunting geese. Snow geese, it can be kind of maddening. So, big numbers for snow geese. Portability is nice. As far as fields out there, layout blind is going to be perfect. Maybe you want to get a fence line and set up that way. As far as hunting geese and ducks over fields, again, a lot of guys just go out there with full bodies and a spinner. That's a pretty traditional way of doing it. If you don't want to pull out all the mallard decoys out there. But I heard from a lot of people recently, actually, that if you really want if you want your mallards to finish, sprinkle a few mallard decoys out there. They'll do wonders, just those little things to get them to finish. So again, you don't need a ton of decoys to go out there. You just need enough, other than if we're going to talk about snow geese. So, that's the long and short of it. Other things to keep in mind or to bring with you when you're out there. We talked about the blind bag binoculars. Binoculars are a critical piece of equipment to bring out there. If you're like me, you hunt in the morning, you maybe hunt pheasants and stuff in the afternoon, but you also do some scouting. And if you come across a field and you think you see birds out there, or you want to identify birds that are on the water where we're at, binoculars are a big help. Don't skimp on it. Get yourself a nice set of binoculars, okay? Not in these, $10, $12 jobbies. Get yourself a nice pair of at least $40. You'll be thankful. So that's it, man. That's a long and short of it. If you have any other questions or comments about planning a hunt to North Dakota, or anything else you might want to know that I haven't covered, any suggestions, go ahead and comment down below here. Subscribe to my blog. We've got some fun stuff coming up. We are about 2 weeks away from the opening of the resident early Wisconsin goose season and the early teal season. We're going to go to North Dakota again this year. We're heading out in late October and into early November. There's a lot of cool things that are coming down. We're going to be real busy. We're going to have some more to-do videos coming up to as far as burlapping, decoy setups, and things like that. I got ideas popping in my head all week. So until then, thanks for stopping by, and have a good day, guys.